Hello, stroke warriors and TBI survivors everywhere. This is Ralph Cortese again with another survivor interview. Today we're going to be a little different, but it's the same in a lot of ways too. I'm kind of titling this just uh, for purposes of my brain, disrupt, move, and transform, bringing the MS disrupted philosophy to stroke recovery. And to that end, I'm going to introduce Kathy Chester. She's the founder of Disrupted, and her MS diagnosis was in 1999. She's got a fitness training background, and her work empowering others through disruptor disease philosophy is so incredible. I was excited to talk to you about this. So, welcome, Kathy. How are you?
Thank you. I'm great. Thank you for having me.
I'd love to hear about your initial MS symptoms and what it was like mentally, physically,
Sure.
psychologically to receive that diagnosis.
Well, I was in my 20s, not yet quite, not 30. I already had two children, babies, and I was very shocked. I had some symptoms that I was, very athletic. I was into any sports. I coached, I did anything. And so was really, really shocked by the diagnosis. I had some things that I was sneaky about, didn't tell doctors, didn't want to go to doctors, didn't like going to doctors, never went there. Why did I ever have to go to doctor? So actually, this is quite common. My first symptom was actually optic neuritis. So I couldn't see, still can't see out of my right eye. And that doesn't happen often. So optic neuritis will kind of come and go with MS patients and with other issues. And this bugger just wouldn't go away. And back then, they would just pump us with steroids, IV steroids. And so years later, when our jaw's messed up and we can't figure out why we're getting so many, root canals, they realize, maybe IV steroids are not the way to go. So we don't do that so much anymore. But that was my first symptom, and I was actually diagnosed by the ophthalmologist. So it's always on holiday when we're diagnosed. I don't know why, but it was Mother's Day, and I woke up and couldn't see. And so it felt like something was in my eye. I kept like trying to scratch it out, and kept as the day went on, it was getting grayer and grayer. And then the next day, I went to the ophthalmologist, and he was a younger ophthalmologist. And by the end of our visit, he came and sat with me, and I thought he was choked up, and I thought, this is not good. Why is he choked up?
Oh my
So
gosh.
very, very kind, very compassionate doctor. If you see my therapy dog roaming around, she just doesn't know what to do if I'm not with her. So my little golden retriever is all over. Um, I felt like he was in my house. He was like, is there anything else happening? Any numb spots? I didn't share this with anyone. So I was numb from my shins down. But, I don't like to complain about anything health-wise, that kind of stuff. So I was like, yeah, but I know there's gravity. My feet hit the ground. By the way, how do you know? So he said, well, so as we talked a little bit more, he said, I think you might have what's called multiple sclerosis. I'm like, what? At that point, I didn't really know my grandfather had that. Um, and all I could think of is Annette Funicello, right? I'm like, so she's in a wheelchair. I can't have that. And so went to the hospital. They did, who doesn't like a spinal tap? They did that. They did MRI and found actually that I had quite a few lesions back. They could tell back from probably high school, maybe younger, that I actually had it. So, so we started, they back then they gave you a lovely VHS tape, and they showed some older couple like going on a stroll or like a little bike ride. And I was like, I threw both of them out. I was like, screw this. And so my way of dealing with it was I wasn't a runner unless it was a sport you did short runs, but I decided to take up running. and I was just going to run the disease out. That was my plan. If I run fast enough, I'll run it out. So that didn't work. Unfortunately, it didn't work. And so I found a neurologist, and he was amazing. I had him for a long time, and unfortunately, one of those crazy things, never smoked a day in his life, passed away from lung cancer. But through those young years having him, he was just amazing. Very, the doctor that was for me, I'm very aggressive. I want to do the very best. And back then, they were just starting like a low dose of chemo if the attacks were coming over and over again. And mine were. So we did that. Excuse me. These allergies here, this humidity that we've got in Michigan right now. Um, so I was dealing with that, doing the chemo, and that did halt it for a long time. So dealing with all the fun of MS. So those are my early years of having it. And I've still remained extremely active with it. And I do believe that that is why I've been able to do so many of the things I can still do.
I'm curious, and then, being stroke warrior radio, the similarities, we talked before we went on
Yeah,
air a little bit about their similarities. It's a neurological thing,
correct.
pretty much the same as stroke, except it's
Yeah.
not a brain attack.
It,
It's a
well, it
nervous.
is considered, yeah, a central nervous system for MS. But if you think about it, is still a brain injury, right? Our brain has been, and it is like our brain forgets. It's the brain fog. It's the cognitive stuff. It's why do I do this to do that, and why can't I walk this way anymore? And why does this not make sense? And if I drive, why do I want to put my foot on this pedal instead of that one? So it's some of those same kind of things. Or why do I want to walk this way? So there's saying when I'm teaching and I'm working with my clients that are either MS or stroke, a lot of similarities. So very, very interesting.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your early recovery experience.
Recovery.
Was there therapy after the chemo? Was there,
Okay, gotcha.
did you have to do those kind of things one of the things that didn't discover until 3 years in was the mental health aspect, that I needed counseling for that as well. Did you go
Yeah.
through all that?
Back then, unfortunately, with MS, no, they didn't really have that. Unfortunately, they had, let me tell you what they had. The first support group I went to was actually in a scooter shop. So how depressing is that? So you
Right.
got these young people, and we're all like this, and we're all looking like, and I'm just like terrified, and I'm looking at my husband thinking, I'm not. I want to leave right now, and I couldn't believe that this is supposed to be a support group. We all have to look. Are we picking one out after? And it just seemed like such a sad place. And honestly, everybody in there was sad, but always trying to find the silver lining. That's how I met my neurologist. There was a younger kid in there that kind of probably saw my eyes like saucers and said, "Hey, can I talk to you for a minute?" And I was like, "Sure." And so he said, "Have you heard of this doctor, neurologist?" And so, besides support groups, I mean, there really wasn't. Nobody referred you or said, like, "Do you want to speak to someone?" Not even like testing, cognitive testing, nothing like that back then.
You were originally told rest was the key. What led you to embrace movement as medicine for your diagnosis?
Like I said, with my grandfather, learning after my grandfather and my aunt, I just kept thinking, and with all of the anatomy that I was studying and all of the sports and stuff it never made any sense to me that if I have a disease that will atrophy my body and slow my body down, why will I help it and just rest and just lay down all day? Will I just watch? Back then, Netflix wasn't a thing, but am I just going to learn to watch soap operas? What am I going to
Yeah,
do
right.
with my day? So I just not understanding we do need to rest. We can't just go, go, go all day. But our biggest defense that we have is exercise, is movement. So it didn't make any sense to me. Fortunately, I had a neurologist that had the same thinking. We don't always get that, but I did. And so when I told him, if you're going to tell me to rest and to sit down all day, I'm not going to listen. So he said, I have a feeling you're pretty spunky. I'm like, I'm Italian, I'm spunky, and I have to move. So, we worked really well together. I started running. I wanted to do a full marathon. And so he was a funny guy. He sat me my next infusion. He sat me next to a woman that had ran the Boston, and she had a severe MS attack after that. And I looked at him when he came. He'd always come back and see his patients. And I looked at him and I said, "Don't think I do not know you did this on purpose." And so we made a deal that I would never run a full marathon. And I understood it. The reason being is because, when your body gets so overheated, it can't replace the fluids. And so that can cause an attack. And so we talked about doing other things. Like I would do triathlon sprints that were shorter. Or I finally talked him into letting me do half marathons. It was like, if you stop and you have a belt with 3 water things on there. And so I did those it's been a couple of years since I've done one of those. But I did those for years and really enjoyed that part, and honestly would really just get choked up and stop, and just the beauty of it. And that didn't matter how fast I did it, but that I did it, was just really just inspirational for my own self, and felt like I was doing something to just fight back this disease.
Yeah.
We didn't understand at that time that that was our biggest defense. I just knew I felt so much better. I think it took the MS Society. I think honestly, Ralph, I think it was 2020 when the MS Society came out and said exercise is a must. And I'm like, wow, thank you. So, so,
Yeah, and it's one thing we learn in stroke is
mhm.
consistency and repetitiveness,
Yes,
and
yes,
it makes a difference. What
for all
what
of
kind
it.
of
Yes.
background led you to MS disrupted? I mean, were you in medical profession or what before?
So I wanted to do physical therapy. That was like really, really what I guess how I felt, and I'm really glad I kind of went this direction. So I started doing training, and I started as just a trainer. I was kind of a pain in the neck if you worked with me. I did corporate travel, and I would set up times like, okay, you're going to work out this time, and they were like, "Geez, we didn't know we hired like Jane Fonda," and um, so I would do that kind of stuff. But then I really wanted to train, and so I started doing that kind of stuff. But then when I started getting in back in the day, called special population, is all they could think of calling it. So I started to get more into like stroke survivors, and all of the different autoimmune diseases and how similar they were to work with. And then anytime someone came into the studio with something, they're like, "Oh, Kathy can help them. Kathy can help them." And so what it really did is I got so interested in working with these different patients and clients that what I really enjoyed is what next after physical therapy. What next? Because there wasn't anything. It's physical therapy, and then good luck and
Yeah,
best to you. So I wanted that what next to help those clients that are on the other side of physical therapy. And so that was really the niche I found that I really enjoyed. And so through the years after, I opened up my own gym, and again, it was that struggle, that pull of having my own gym, but yet having these people that I really wanted to work with. So honestly, Ralph, it was 2020, and we're all in our homes. Nobody can do anything. We're all stuck. And that was really the time that I looked and said, they were talking about doing a second gym, and I was wanting to throw up, honestly, because I didn't want to. I really wanted to work more with the clients that were struggling with strokes, cancer, Crohn's, MS, all the stuff that rheumatoid and epilepsy. And I was like, this is where I want to move into. I know the money isn't going to be what it was at the gym, but the first time that I had a client stand in the shower for the, I just sobbed. I mean, what beats that? I don't know how to, you know, can I buy a new car? No. Can I, no, I can't do that. But wow, I mean that just made it made everything different. And
Yeah,
so that really, and what opened up in 2020? Zoom. So
yeah.
it made the ability to work with clients in different countries. I mean, it was a little scary working with people in India. I was like, are you okay? It's very dark. So I'm like, if you're in danger, can you reach out to anyone? But it was a beautiful thing in all the darkness and the scariness, right, of COVID. It was a beautiful thing for us to all be able to connect in a way that we never could before.
Right,
And so I
right.
think it taught us about each other's diseases and how it worked, but also the connection, I think, was beautiful. And so many of us continued. I have so many clients on Zoom now still that are so much more comfortable. And they show me they get excited about, this is my workout room. This is what, my husband designed for me or my parents. And I think it's amazing. And they've got their
Yeah, yeah.
signs. And so I really, really love doing that. And so I get, equipment together for them. Everybody's different. I work a lot with bands, things that are not too harsh. Bands tend to do a really good job. And there's so many different things. If they can't feel their feet, I'm not going to tell them, put the band under your feet and we're going to do like a back row. Well, that's not going to be helpful. It's going to come and hit them in the face. So, we adapt to things that are for them. Like for when I'm working with stroke patients, and MS patients, we want to learn, you'll understand flexion, right? We want to, a lot of times the knee just juts out. So we need to work on how to bend, how to have flexion. And so there's a lot of things in person, right, that I love to be able to touch and help with those things. But on Zoom too, there are several things that you can do. And it's just about that creativity, just being creative with it, I think is, and also knowing that they're seeing either their occupational therapist as well. And I'm just another piece of the puzzle for those clients.
Yeah, it took me a long time to understand. They put me in PT. I didn't realize I needed OT until like 3 to 6 months later. And then now, as far as I'm concerned, it's 12 therapies. I mean, there's all kinds of different things
Right,
from acupuncture to chiropractic and massages
right.
to, and that's something that you have to self-advocate and learn yourself,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
absolutely. And it gets
So,
exhausting to self-advocate all the time,
yeah,
doesn't it?
yeah. But one of the best things I found after starting Stroke Warrior Radio is this community of people with illnesses or traumatic events like
Yeah.
us. It's it's an amazing family. God
Oh,
was
yeah.
everybody is so willing to share. I mean, and learn too. I mean, we're
Yeah.
listening to in 54 countries now.
That's
So
really
it's
awesome.
yeah, it's
I've been
really cool.
stalking you a bit. It's really cool.
Yeah, thank you. Well, life beyond MS, and what's your life like, family, and how do you balance the wellness and your advocacy? I mean, I go
Oh,
through it
gosh.
too. It's like, how do I
Yeah.
do this all?
Right? Well, if only our brains were that organized, right? It's the
Yeah,
one thing I wish I'm like, I'll tell people if you can do notebooks, great. Sometimes I'm not too great with them because I'll write in my health notebook, a workout notebook, a workout sheet. I'm like, I have to do really well with labeling. So I have to really sit down at a good time because you're probably the same. most of us, I think, know the hours were good. And then the hours that the kids would say this when they were younger. Oh, mom's neurotransmitters have shut down. I don't know where they got that, but it was true. It's like we can no longer ask mom questions because she cannot respond correctly. So, or take advantage of me was a good time.
Yeah,
So I know the hours that I can do well with certain things, and the hours that would not be good for me to do an interview or to train anyone. So those would be the hours that I would more play with my therapy dog or do things that I enjoy doing. And during that time that I can do that, maybe scheduling things. So it is really learning about you and where your safe times are and organizing. I have my new grandbaby, which is the highlight of my life. And
that's good for getting
uh,
old.
oh my gosh, she's so funny. I have bruises everywhere from going down water slides. And my daughter's like, you're just doing this because they keep asking you how old your daughter is. And I'm like, well, kinda, I like that. So, but it's just so fun. And I really take time in my week to look at days that I can have rest time. I'm not a sleeper. I don't know how you are with sleep, but we have a lot of patients that will do great sleeping, and some of us are not great at sleeping. So I always really try to talk to the people that are like me, and all the things that we know: caffeine, stay away from it at this certain time, screen time, which is hard, right? Because you want to wake up and I'll just watch this for a little bit. Don't do it. Um, and also take yourself out of bed. If it's been half an hour and you're still just, flopping back and forth, take yourself out of bed for a little bit, then come back in and see if you can go to sleep. So I think, trying to navigate your week, I always try on Sunday to try to make that time to think about, okay, what am I going to be doing this week? And what are my social plans? Like, what are things I want to do for me that is not just work, 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 so that by the end of the week I'm exhausted? And what can I do for family stuff that will not just the to-dos, but that will also keep me going and bring that spark, that we need.
The tenet of MS Disrupted is based on the five pillars of disrupt your disease. What does that
Yeah.
mean?
So the word disrupt came from I've loved that word. Um, I think it was 2015, and that's where I started my personal training. So I love it because it can be used for so many things. Disrupt your idea of what you thought you could do. Disrupt the idea that you thought you could only do this, but guess what? You can do so much more. Disrupt your everyday things, your everyday movement, that could have just been this, and this. Let's change it. A lot of things that I'd love to do with people is let's confuse things a little bit. It's good for us, for our brain, and it's something that you don't get bored of. I get bored if I'm doing the same exercise every day. So let's change it up and let's get more exciting. Let's disrupt that. And so I like to use it in a powerful way, and in a way that makes you feel more empowered. So I really love to use that in pretty much everything I do. I put disrupt in it. So I really think about disrupting your disease is kind of, also giving the middle finger to it and saying, I'm going to disrupt you because you disrupted me. So, so many ways I use that word.
Yeah, yeah. I love the way you do though. But you mentioned the five pillars of movement, nutrition, mindfulness, rest, hydration, and support. Is
Yes.
that, tell me about that.
So, well, now I didn't write that down, so you're gonna have to keep repeating that to me because I didn't sleep last night, remember? So my brain fog
Yeah.
is so yeah, hydration. Oftentimes I would say with that, I get so often, it's funny because I'll have like, and I'll just use a male, for example, who hasn't been able to do any workouts at all for a long time. And a lot of times it's just the depression. kicks in. We all know that. It's depressing, and he hasn't been able to work out in a while. So let's say we've begun our workout program. And now let's say he's done some back rows and he's done some bicep curls. And now the next day he wakes up and he's sore, right? And so he's going to call or email me. What in the heck is this? And I'm like, lactic acid. And he's like, oh, that's right. I haven't had that in forever. And so now he's feeling all pumped up and ready. And now I'm going to say, but remember, also your muscles are dehydrated. And oftentimes we forget that. So we need more water, more hydration. We forget that in the heat and in our movement, the first thing that we forget is dehydration. Our muscles dehydrate. So we've got to hydrate more than we think. And so that oftentimes is what we're missing. And that oftentimes is what we neglect. So hydrate, hydrate.
We've talked about movement a lot already, but the next one's kind of come to the forefront lately in the national picture about nutrition.
Yes.
What do you suggest on that?
On that one, I kind of stay in the place of think about like there's so many things that we can't really count on, like what the FDA approves and stuff. So I would say stay with, we always think about the outside of the grocery, not the outside, but around the grocery store, right? Not in the center. We don't want things when you don't know what an ingredient is and you've never heard of it, don't get away from it. Stay with fresh things, fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, um, meats that aren't real fatty. Not I would say sugar is the one we want to stay away from. And I know it's hard because it is tough, and sugar's in everything. But we want to be really careful with sugar because sugar is something that really gets us. And I always tell this to my clients, don't go crazy with it. Don't say, okay, I'm going to take sugar out, gluten out, this out, because then you don't know what in the world's affecting you, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
eat as healthy as you can. Put fish in your diet. Don't eat red meat every day. Put chicken. Not don't make it breaded. Don't go to fast food. Don't do that stuff. Your body is yours. You now have this precious thing you're taking care of, and you want it to last as long as it can. And so your job now is to take care of this body. And so don't feed it French fries every day, even though sometimes, gosh, French fries are really good. And it's okay once in a while, but don't make that your daily diet. Think about what you're putting in. Think about each thing you're having, how late it is. Make sure that you're getting a breakfast. Don't, you're not five. You don't need Fruity Pebbles, to have something good for you. And so just think about what you're eating. And the labels, goodness, labels aren't correct. I mean, make sure you're not just reading sugar. There's fructose, there's all that other stuff. Make sure that you're educating yourself on really what the labels are and how much sugar and stuff are in there. And pretty, I feel pretty good on that. I don't like to give people one strict, like the Mediterranean one
Yeah,
or something like
right,
that.
right.
Yeah.
But it's my habit is I read the labels constantly, but I go straight to the ingredients.
Yes.
I don't read the nutritional stuff. I go straight to the
Yes.
ingredients and
Yeah.
I decide what I'm going to put in my body.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool. Um, yeah, we talked about support, but mindfulness, that's
Yeah.
become a big thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I've learned meditation myself
Hmm.
from one of
Very
my other
important.
contributors. Tell me
Yes.
about mindfulness.
Well, like you said, meditating, I think, is incredibly important for so many reasons. I think, well, I'll give you this too. I love working one-on-one, and I do some Zoom classes, which I think are fun too, where you've got people they've got they're making that friendship together, where they're all together in it. But the one-on-one, I think, is special because you can have that time where I can see you
Okay.
and you can see me and I can tell, like, let's say you just got on with me and you look really stressed out, like something might have just happened. You got a phone call or something. And I can say, you know what? Let's wait for a second. Let's do some breathing. So hand on heart, hand on diaphragm. Let's do just some diaphragm breathing for a couple seconds, maybe a minute or two. And let's calm everything down. And let's just be mindful of where we are. Because if I've got you and something really happens, is your mind and body going to connect to do any movement? Or are you going to be thinking of what just happened and how emotional that was? So I think that connection, obviously, between the brain and the mind and the body, we know that brain plasticity we want, but also we're not ready to move until we've got that mindfulness and we're ready to do that. And sometimes there's so much emotion and so much going on up here that we're not ready to do anything as far as movement. So we've got to make sure that we're focused on that as well.
You've you've mentioned that you work with stroke survivors a lot.
Mm.
And one of the phrases that really got to me in reading your bio and everything and your websites is micro disruption. What are some of the micro disruptions that stroke survivors can do to regain confidence and function?
Um, I would say small things at a time, not big things. Um, like I have a mini skateboard, and a lot of times, we'll use that, and I'll bring it in, and I'll say, okay, get on, and they'll laugh, and I'll say, no, we're gonna sit down and we'll do some lateral things, just tiny, and they'll think it's a big movement, and I'll say, no, 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 little, or if it's a big day, it's just a tiny thing, and celebrate it, celebrate those micro things, celebrate those tiny things. Well, it's so easy for us, right, to like think and remember all the negative. But we forget and we don't celebrate the positive, that small thing. So that's why I have them make sure they have a notebook and to put it in there. And so to make notes of that you did this today. And don't forget, and you're not going to forget because you're putting it in the notebook right now that you did this and that was a big deal. And sometimes it's hard for us to think of those and remember
Yeah,
that we did that.
yeah. We say catch the wave, warriors achieving victories every day. It's
Yes,
those
I love
little
that.
things that add
Yeah,
up to the big ones. Tell me
absolutely.
about your program to disrupt MS or stroke function. You have a
Yeah.
10-week program, right?
Actually, we have changed that. So that is
Oh,
actually
okay.
going off the website. So what I do is I just have phases. So if I have phases, and let's say you might be in phase two in some areas, but phase one in a different area, and that's completely fine. So maybe as far as your ability to sit to stand, and you've got that down. Um, and then we can go on to a different phase. Maybe your ability to sit to stand isn't there at all. And so we're going to stay here. So it's just different ways and also different goals. I always ask people, always remember, what is your why? Why are we doing it? What is that why? And so each thing we do, and I always ask them, what is the next thing what is that next goal that you have? What are we shooting for? What are we aiming for? Just to keep that, because sometimes, I mean, do we wake up every morning thinking, I really want to work out today? I really want to do this. No, I don't. So
No.
if I can keep them and keep myself remembering what is that why, that's a big help.
But how do you modify exercises for those with mobility or balance challenges? I mean,
Oh,
like I said before we started was I used to my early recovery was so stagnant, they'd put me on a bike as a therapist and walk away. How do
yeah.
you get people to, you know, go for
Yeah.
that? I mean, I
Um,
think it's a personal thing.
yeah. I would say one of the things that I always say to clients is that sometimes we have to go backwards to go forward, and that's okay. And that is not a wrong thing. That is sometimes therapists may have missed something. Sometimes, and this physical therapists, don't get mad at me. Sometimes our newer therapists, it's a bing bang, they got up and walked, goodbye. And so
Yeah.
we may need to go backwards and hit some of the things that were missed. And so we do some of that. And I think I did not answer the rest of your question. Can you repeat it again?
How do you modify exercises for
Got it.
those with mobility and balance challenges?
So a lot of times, like what I'll do is, I have seated paid clients as well, right? So I've got a lot of my clients are in chairs, are in wheelchairs. So we will do things that obviously those who are standing, she is really wanting to say hello to you.
Hey,
So Sophia, hello, hello. You're in all my videos. She thinks she is the star.
yeah, why not?
So, so she a lot of times will do that, and I'll say they'll, feel upset. Like, well, what if I'm not going to get the best because I'm seated? I said, are you kidding? So we'll do cardio, and I have cable ropes that they'll do in their chair. And so if they've got hand strength, or I also have some Velcro wraps that they can wrap around their hand, and we'll do some cardio with that, where they can grip onto the rope, and we'll do that. We'll do, run in place. We'll do this. And I'm tired. They're tired after that. And so most of the things we do with mindfulness is I don't do to music because I want them to be focused on what we're doing. Now we come to the end and we do some cardio. I will put some music on and we'll have some fun with the cardio. And that's a fun time that we
Yeah,
have. But I want them to always know we can do this seated or standing. And even if there's a lot of standing clients, sometimes it's just not a standing day. I mean, you know that, I know that. Some
yeah.
days it's like the legs just aren't being friendly. They're not working together. So, it's being, I think as a trainer and as somebody who is helping, it's being able to be think on the spot and knowing that client and saying we're good, we're going to do it seated today, or I had a seated workout but they're ready to stand, and just changing it up and being ready for them.
I'm gonna jump to move it or lose it. What's give us a quick overview of your show and popular episode topics.
Absolutely. I that Move It or Lose It. I had wanted to do a podcast years ago, and I started listening to different podcasts and really enjoyed podcasts in general. One I didn't want to do was with a girlfriend, and we would be chatting about stuff that we thought were funny, but no one else knew. And the guest had no idea what we were talking about. And I never liked that. I knew I didn't want that. And what I really enjoy about starting the Move It or Lose It one is I enjoy interviewing different patients and then interviewing different companies that are helping our lives more simple, designing different things, and different doctors, right? That we want to know, and giving them a chance as well to say what they would love to be able to do different. And so I enjoy that part of it, but then being able to learn about all sorts of different exciting diseases but that we may not know about, right? So that having someone come on and explain a disease that most people have never heard of. And I really enjoy listening to all of the stories that people have had, or caregivers coming on, and really having a bunch of caregivers coming on and really being able to share. I did one with couples that were, and the difference between that and well, how different that is, and with your marriage than it is with like a parent taking care, or you taking care of a parent, and the difference between that.
Forgotten Heroes.
Yes,
What's your website?
it is
How do people find you?
msdisrupted.com.
Okay, and you do social medias as well?
Yeah, and that is at msdisrupted.
Okay. Um, how can stroke survivors in particular, being Stroke Warrior Radio, benefit from your podcast?
I would say same. I mean, that I have a lot of the same things. I have a lot of actually, if you go back, I have Maddie, who she is one of the designers of Psionic, and so
Yeah.
I just had her. and I love her. And so
Yeah,
I
Maddie's
enjoyed,
great.
yeah. So I'm actually going to be doing some stuff with them. So I think that they all. Here's the thing that I love is that as we discussed about working and coming together, I think when we as people with a voice come together and we can, I think competition is for those who are just who are just very into competing and are very into themselves. And I love to have people who will work together because that is a team wanting the best for everybody. And I love doing work with different companies and with each other, like us doing things together. And those are wins to me.
Yeah. I'm gonna go on. What is the one thing that you wish, I mean, we often say here is we didn't know what we didn't know. What is the one thing you wish survivors knew that they didn't?
Ooh. It's not going to take you down. There is so much out there that you will learn and be a better person for. There are hard days, I will not lie, and it sucks. These diseases suck, but they make you better in so many ways. I can tell you it made me a better mom for sure. It made me slow down. I think I was the Energizer Bunny. I still kind of am, but it slowed me down to see things, to stop and enjoy the beauty of a garden. Don't think I would ever grow in a vegetable garden, but it slows you down to be able to see the beauty of things. Where I think some of us don't stop to see things. We're on this like America, like, we got to do this, we got to get this done, we got to make this much money, we got to have this many kids, we have to, and it's kind of like slow down. And so I would say breathe. It's going to be hard at times, but you're going to find enjoyment that you never thought you would. So don't be terrified. Just breathe with it, and you're going to meet some amazing people through this journey.
One change that most survivors can make today.
Move, movement, move your body, and don't stop.
What's your favorite adaptive tool, fitness tool?
Ooh, I have so many. Um,
Well, how about one that most survivors should have? That's so many too, I guess.
I know,
I'm
I'm
trying
like,
to,
oh gosh, you're asking the really wrong person. I would say bands, and I would say you need to have bands. I would say some kind of something you can do cardio with, whether it's a bike, whether it is if you're able to walk, whether it is. I I think that having the ability to do cardio and having the ability to do resistant training, and I would say, yeah, I would say adaptive as far as movement. I would say those are really big things to have that you need to have as far as movement goes.
I love the bands too. I've got them
Yeah,
hooked up
yeah.
all over
Because I
the
think
house
you can do
because
it. Go ahead.
yeah, they're easy and you don't have to have weights. I mean, it's
Exactly.
almost as just like having a weight. What's one of your favorite mantras or affirmations that get you through the day?
Ooh, if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you.
Ooh, I like that.
Thank
What's your
you.
favorite motivational song?
Ooh, let's see. Motivational song. I like music a lot.
Yeah, me
Um,
too. Yeah, I got more into music too after the stroke.
yeah,
I've been to like 55 concerts in my life. And then after the stroke, it was like I rediscovered it.
yeah, that is true. Gosh, I have, whoo, that's a hard one. I can't think of just one. Let's see. Um,
Oh, there's Rocky, there's Celebrate,
I
there's
know I got some, ooh, you
what's
got
some
me. I'm going to have
songs?
to look at my playlist. I'll
Okay,
look at
all
my,
right, sounds good.
go on to the next one. I'll look at my playlist
All
that I
right.
have that I know.
What, is there anything else you'd like to add for today's show?
Well, now that you got me looking at playlists, now you're gonna have to give me something different. Um, you have to ask me another question while I'm looking.
Yeah, if you want to add anything to today's discussion that we haven't covered?
Um, I mean, I'm just so grateful that you had me on, and I love to speak of this. I really, truly do. I love to speak of movement and just the importance of it, and just to give any survivor, any of these diseases, just a just joy and an understanding of that it's all going to be okay. You know that you're going to be okay. There's going to be really tough times, but we will survive. There we go.
There you go.
We will survive. You will survive, and you will thrive. And I know that's overused now. I'm like, why did they have to overuse that? But
Yeah, right.
you can thrive in this. And I know it that when I have a couple now that I went to that terrible support group, I now run two of them. One is for newbies that are diagnosed, and one is for a women's support group. And I love that because they share a lot, you know, about guys, men that they are tired of. But no, just kidding. But they, you know, I love that they can share that stuff about how they feel and about those emotional things. And we get funny and silly. We have dance offs and stuff like that. But it's something that, you know, that we can, I think that's important for all of us to have, you know, those people to talk to. And when those new people come on, I love the organic part of that, I guess. It would be my favorite thing to say, where you have the newly diagnosed that help the people that have been diagnosed for a long time remember exactly what we're fighting for. But then when the new ones come on, you've got the people that have been diagnosed that help support and encourage them. So I love that.
Thank you for your work. I mean, it's incredible all I've been through and researching you. I think you're an inspiration and you are truly motivational, I think,
Thank you.
in everything I've seen. So thank you, Kathy. You have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you for
We'll
having
talk.
me on.
Oh, absolutely my pleasure. We'll do this again soon.
Absolutely.
Bye now.
Bye bye.